Hi all, Neto here. I am going to be talking to you briefly about how to avoid plagiarism within your research paper that you guys are going to be writing this unit. Please feel free to pause the video as needed to take notes. There are only 4 definitions, but you are responsible for knowing all 4, and we will be working with all 4 definitions in an activity later on today. So our first definition is direct quotation. And this is the one that you're probably the most familiar with. It involves integrating all or part of an original quotation from the source material into your own writing with direct quotation marks and proper citation. We will be using MLA citation, and if you're not familiar with that, I recommend checking out Tucker's videos on MLA and or asking us, plus using the Purdue OWL. Obviously, I had to bring in a direct quote from Harry Potter. Dobby is free. And so we're using actual quotations and then proper MLA citation. The next definition is paraphrasing. Paraphrasing involves putting a quote from a source material into your own words. So a paraphrase must also be credited to the original source, meaning that you also need to cite it using MLA citation. Paraphrased material is usually shorter than the original passage, and it takes somewhat of a broader segment of the source and condenses it slightly. So think about, again, taking a quote and putting it in your own words. This is the most commonly seen form of plagiarism because we forget to cite it. We think that just because it's not directly quoted, we don't have to cite it. But if you're taking something and putting it in your own words, you need to cite that, and that's actually called paraphrasing. Our third definition is summarizing. Summarizing involves putting the main ideas into your own words, including only the main points. Once again, it is necessary to credit summarized ideas to the original source. So this one is probably the most innocent form of plagiarism that happens because we are generally taking a lot of research and trying to make it sound like our own and not realizing that unless it's our original idea, it needs to be credited back to where you got it from. Summaries are significantly shorter than the original and take a broad overview of the source material. But again, it needs to be cited at the end. So if you're summarizing an entire article from the New York Times, you want to make sure that you're crediting that author for your information. Plagiarism is our last definition. And that is when you represent words, ideas, or information that you obtained from another source as your own, intentionally or not unintentionally, by not including proper citation. So when in doubt, cite. And again, plagiarism can happen unintentionally, but especially when you get to the college level, there's very little tolerance. And when we're working with research papers, this is probably the stickiest area of where this happens. And so that's why we want to make sure that you're very comfortable with the 3 forms of how you would present your information, again, as either direct quotes, paraphrasing, or summarizing. Key points: direct quotations should only be used sparingly. Be sure that you have a good reason to include a direct quote when you decide to do so. So oftentimes we want you to implement evidence, and the evidence, as far as we know it, has been coming in as direct quotes. But now that you know that you can either put those quotes in your own words or even summarize main points, hopefully that takes away that pressure of trying to implement quotes and trying to make it flow into your own work. Most of the time you'll be summarizing or paraphrasing with research, especially in the background section of your research paper, research proposals. Another key point is paraphrases, summaries, and direct quotes all need to be cited, otherwise it is plagiarism. So if you don't get that on that point by the end of this video, please re-watch this video. So now I'm going to give you an example of an original passage, and I want you guys to practice trying to identify which one might be a summary, which one might be a paraphrase, and which one you think may actually be plagiarism. And with the one that you think is plagiarism, think about what sections of the rewritten section looks directly like it's quoted. So the original passage is, students frequently overuse direct quotations in taking notes, and as a result, they overuse quotations in the final research paper. Probably only about 10% of your final manuscript should appear as a direct quoted matter. Therefore, you should strive to limit the amount of exact transcribing of source material while taking notes. Lester James D. Writing Research Papers, 2nd edition, 1976, pages 46 through 47. So, our first example is, students should take just a few notes in direct quotations from sources to help minimize the amount of quoted material in a research paper. Lester, 46. So think to yourself, is this plagiarism? Is it paraphrasing, or is it summary, based on our previous definitions, which hopefully you have written down in front of you. Example 2. Students often use too many direct quotations when they take notes, resulting in too many of them in the final research paper. In fact, probably only 10% of the final copy should consist of direct quoted material, so it is important to limit the amount of source material copied while taking notes. Again, is this plagiarism, paraphrasing, or summary? So make a note of which one you think it is. Last sample. In research papers, students often quote excessively, failing to keep quoted material down to a desirable level. Since the problem usually originates during taking notes, it is essential to minimize the material recorded verbatim. Lester, 46, period. So lastly, is this plagiarism, paraphrasing, or summary? So hopefully you're taking the time to label each of those examples as one or the other. Maybe just put 1, 2, 3 and label which one is plagiarism, paraphrasing, and summary. Hopefully you are able to get that correct. So the first example was a summary. So the summary is this broad overview, and as you can see, it's significantly shorter because this really is this broad overview of the entire passage. The second one is plagiarism, and I have highlighted the actual parts that are plagiarized. So not the entire thing is copied verbatim, but as you can see, it's integrated into their passage, where enough of it is taken from the original passage to be construed as plagiarism. And this would have been avoided if they would have cited it. Then that would have been okay. However, the parts that are directly quoted do need to have quotation marks. The last one, which is a little bit longer than the summary, is the paraphrasing. You may have gotten that incorrect because maybe you thought paraphrasing was shorter, but really, again, the paraphrasing is taking that quote and putting it into their own words, so it may end up actually being a similar length from the original quote because you're just rewording it into your own words. That is it for avoiding plagiarism. Feel free to rewatch the video. Make sure you get all the notes. We are going to be doing an activity with these definitions a little later on, and for sure you will be using them throughout the rest of this unit on your research paper and probably for the rest of your academic career. So key to get all these things down. Okay. Thanks, you guys. Bye.